Let's see here. Okay, I am live. All right. Looks like I'm live. Let me see if I can't get some stuff adjusted here. Y'all bear with me. I finally figured out how to do horizontal here, and so that's a plus. See if I can get this down to where we can get everything in the shot here. Okay, I think this will work. Let's see here. We have nobody on yet. So I did this on Friday at 7 o'clock, which is probably the worst time in the world to do a live stream. I probably won't have anybody show up, which is perfectly fine. I wanted to record this as a part 10 of the Forget the Feed Store series. We do have one viewer, and we do have a like. Thank you for the like. That helps a lot. If you are going to watch the video, please leave a like. It helps get my videos out to other people. So we're going to do the part 10 today of Forget the Feed Store. I blocked out an hour for this. It may take an hour, it may not, just depending on if we have any. So let me see if I can get the live chat. Okay. If we do have more people show up, or whoever you are watching, if you've got any questions or comments, you can throw those in the live chat. I should be able to see it. Hopefully everything is all right. Good. So I'm assuming I'm heard and everything's recording. So thank you. Let's see here. Yeah, test. All right. So I'm heard and everything looks good. I'm guessing from Mikey there. Oh, yep, got two people on. Well, cool. I guess a couple other people have got nothing going on except for talking about Forgetting the Feed Store, which to me is one of the most important topics that we can talk about right now. I made several notes for this. Most of my videos are pretty much off the cuff, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit more in depth. So I do have a plan as far as like an agenda. So what we're going to be talking about today is Forgetting the Feed Store, and we've talked about that for the past 2 weeks. And it's a huge subject, got a lot of things that are little bits and pieces that are just parts of oh, looks like my wife might have found the dry erase boards here. Does this marker work? Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, thank you. So I'm going to try to draw a little bit for us today too. I'm not a very good drawer, but we'll try to do a little bit of visual stuff here too today. So Forgetting the Feed Store's got a lot of components to it, but there is an overall philosophy to Forgetting the Feed Store. And for me, it is treating your farm, your small farm, hobby farm, homestead, like a food web. So I'm sure that most people are familiar with food webs in nature. You probably learned about them in school. And, so a food web goes is like, let's say we're going to use my homestead as an example here. This is hopefully to get everybody's creative juices going about doing your food web on your own homestead. Let's hear Mike. Mike says nothing goes to waste. Amen to that. Nothing goes to waste in a food web. So that's what we're wanting to do with our homesteads. So with a food web, for example, me on my homestead, I am the apex predator. So we're going to put Logan up here at the top. Y'all have to excuse my handwriting too. I'm like a toddler. So we've got this, and I don't know if this marker is going to continue to work. I hope it does. We've got Logan at the top here, right? And Yeah, I think this marker might have. And then we're going to come down and we're going to put, so far on our homestead, we have pigs, we have rabbits, we have chickens, and we have ducks. Okay, so these are all the things that me and my family as the apex predators consume, are the pigs, rabbits, chickens, and ducks. Now, in a food web, there are a lot of times where you'll have, it's not really a chain. There's the old concept of a food chain, right? You've got one at the top and it just goes down and everything's eaten. But the food web is, more of a web shape. I guess that's why they call it a food web. So like with the pigs, for example, there's a lot of byproducts from rabbits that I can feed to pigs, like the organs. We don't eat a whole lot of organs. And I'm gonna put the dog here too, because the dog eats a lot of stuff. Skoda, our livestock guardian dog. I don't know if on the camera this is mirrored or how it looks, or if y'all can really even see it that well. I apologize about this marker being a piece of crap. But we've got the pigs, rabbits. We've got byproducts going to the pigs. And then same thing with the chickens. Got the chickens. The chickens eat some of the rabbit stuff too. So do the ducks. So we've got us and the dog eating all of these. And we've got these eating the rabbits. All right, so it's kind of blurry. Maybe if I shut this door, see if maybe that'll help a little bit. And let me turn out this light over here on the other side of the camera. Oh, that made it so dark in here. Never mind, we need the other light. Sorry guys, this is my first time doing a live like this. The last time I did it was at a mushroom workshop and I didn't even get the horizontal correctly, so I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, this is blurry, but hopefully we'll all learn something from this and have a good discussion. But so the thing with the rabbits is so the rabbits, what do they eat? They eat, we're going to just put down grass, and trees. So just green matter, right? And so that goes to the rabbits, which guess what? The chickens eat it, the pigs eat it, and the ducks eat it. So we've got all these connections here. And I'm about to give up the whiteboard because this is just not looking too good. But so we've got to start thinking about our homesteads as a food web. And I think that Mikey there, let's see here. Okay, yeah, let me go up here where I can see. I saw a little bit better. But following along, awesome. Yeah, showing up is half the battle. But anyway, so we want to think about our homesteads like food webs. We want to close all of those gaps where there is no waste. And that's what I've been trying to teach through just little principles of the Forget the Feed Store series that I've been doing. I'm wanting to do more of these. That's kind of been the theme of my whole channel, is doing stuff to get away from having to depend on the feed store. So I mentioned that I would today in one of the comments that I would talk a little bit about fodder. So we're going to kind of start at the bottom of the food web. And I want to talk about some of the things that you can do to attract free food to your homestead. One of the main ones for me is insects. So chickens are mostly insectivores. Now they'll eat a good bit of grass and they'll eat a good bit of grain. But as far as their more natural diet, what they will do is they'll eat insects. So if you can attract insects to your property, there's something already taken care of. I know most of the time if we have layers and they free range and they have access to grass and they have access to plenty of bugs, you don't have to feed them and they'll still lay eggs. You just supply them with a safe place to go and lay that egg and they're good to go. But one of the ways that we can attract insects, and one of the ways is water. And we're going to be talking about what I've got behind me here. This is in my little shop where I keep a lot of my tools and stuff. But we're going to be talking about aquatics on the homestead. That's one of my favorites, is the aquatics systems in homestead settings. I mean, they just bring so much life. So if you can get some type of water onto your property, it doesn't have to be a big pond. You can get something that can bring in those insects. All insects love to drink water. A lot of insects are also amphibious, meaning, or wait, no, I'm not looking for the word amphibious. What am I looking for? What's the word? Is it amphibious well, I know frogs, they're amphibious because they go and land in water, but they raise their young in water. I guess that's amphibious too. Somebody in the chat correct me. Look it up on Google if I'm wrong on that. And amphibious insects, that's what I'm gonna call them right now. It's not amphibious. There's another word for it, I feel like. But anyway, they raise their young like mosquitoes, bloodworms, dragonfly larvae are one of the insects that raise their young in water. So that, produces a lot of predator insects, and it also produces a lot of food for aquatic life. But what you're going to see is a lot of times those predators and those pest insects that you're going to have in your garden are going to be more attracted to an area where they don't have to go off to look for a place to drink. So if you can bring any type of water, I've got videos on my channel, they're old, but of just little like 30-gallon pots that have no holes in them, like tree pots that you put down into the ground and put something for animals that might fall in to climb out of, and that will attract a huge amount of insects and life and frogs and stuff like that. Which brings me to my next one, is frogs. If you can bring frogs to your landscape, now it's not going to do for every landscape, or excuse me, every animal to have frogs. Chickens will eat frogs. If you can get a frog, people think about a frog and they think about a big old bullfrog, but when that bullfrog metamorphoses into the tadpole turns into a frog, it will be a very small frog. It's perfect size for a chicken to swallow whole. And I'm going to open this back up now since we can do with the light. But anyway, they will eat frogs. For me, the ducks that I have videos about this too on the channel. You can look on there of them eating tadpoles. Tadpoles is a huge one. But bringing that water will allow these types of animals to come in. Another one is birds. Birds need water. Small mammals need water. Now with the small mammals, now that we have pigs, they'll anything that they can get as far as mice, voles, moles, whatever small little rodent you can think of. If a pig can get a hold of that, it'll slurp it up like spaghetti, and that's straight protein for that pig. That's how they're able to go through, and it looks like they really only eat grass and grains, but they're getting that protein through those small mammals. You can bring in birds. Now birds is one of those that it's kind of you don't see a direct feed to your animals from birds. I mean, you could shoot the birds and feed them to your pigs, but it wouldn't necessarily be a good idea in my opinion. I just feel like there's so much more that they offer rather than just shooting them and giving them as a protein. But bringing in that life through water is going to make a huge difference. And I think we had a comment from Mikey about that. Let me see. yeah, the micro ponds and galvanized steel buckets, oh yeah, for sure. Those work. You can do the cheapest way to have a really good garden pond and make sure that it stays full all year long is to go and get a pond liner. You can either buy the really thick stuff, which is going to be more expensive, and you can put underlayment under it too, or do sand or something. But a lot of times they're really hard to puncture. If you get like the 40 mil, 20 mil is even hard to puncture. But even if you wanted to, one thing I'm going to be looking at experimenting with is taking the 6 mil plastic from Lowe's that they use for underlayment under houses. Now, it's not very thick. And it's not UV stable. So as far as it being in the sun, it's not going to last. But if you take a basin and you make a pond kind of like this, and then you put an underlayment underneath that liner of old carpet. You can go to these old carpets or these carpet stores where they rip out old carpet. A lot of times they have to throw it out and pay somebody to take it off. You can go and intercept that and say, hey, can you give me some of this old carpet? And they'll be like, well, it's got cat piss in it. And you can be like, well, I don't care. It's going in the ground. So you can set it on the basin that you've dug, put down a layer or two of that 6 mil. That stuff comes in 20-foot wide rolls by 100-foot. So you can make a 20 by 20 pond, or, make it longer if you wanted to go up to 20 foot wide and however long you wanted to go. And you can put down a couple of layers of that and then come in and put gravel, dirt, whatever, plant into it. It'll hold a lot of water. Now, I've got pigs specifically for sealing ponds, but the thing is you have to have a large enough pond that'll hold water throughout the summer. So if you're going to do these smaller ponds, you really need to line them. Some people, don't like that because it's not as natural. It doesn't hydrate the landscape. But to me, I had rather have something like that than no water feature at all on the property. So that's something to look at, is doing those small little garden ponds. You can do them like that. You can do the galvanized buckets. You can do the pots buried in it. You can even do some above ground stuff will help. Bird baths, bring some type of water onto the homestead, which is going to lead me into my second point. As homesteaders, I know that there's aquaponics, and a lot of people are really into aquaponics, hydroponics, but I feel like as far as aquaculture, we're not using it as much as we should. And that's one of our main goals on our off-grid property that we're building, is to have tons of aquaculture. Now, I'm going to jump here to what I've got here in the back. I've got this old 55-gallon tank. I used to be addicted to having aquariums. Me and my wife had a room. Well, I say me and my wife. It was me had a room in our apartment. We had a 2-bedroom apartment. Skoda came in here and shaking the stick, if y'all are wondering what's going on there. She just got done taking a swim. She's filthy. But I had tons of aquariums in that room. It was just a room, nothing but aquariums. It was the guest bedroom, had a little bed in there, and then aquariums everywhere. But these are some fish that I caught. Some of them I raised in a little pond on the property. These are just little green sunfish. I've got some just various different types of sunfish. Some people call them sunnies. Some people call them brim, sunfish, bluegill. It's those types of fish. But keeping stuff like this and keeping native fish to your area is a great way to add protein onto the homestead. And this here is just a holding tank for stuff that I'm going to start putting in our little ponds. As you can see, it's very redneck with the setup. I've got just a screen on here to keep it from jumping out, and a light, and some bubblers. If you've got small garden ponds, pumps are great and they move water. They're an excellent aesthetic, which I think is really important on our homesteads, to have beauty too. But if you want just functionality, air pumps is the best way to go. It's going to aerate the water a lot more than moving the water. Now, moving the water at higher volumes will keep it cooler, but this is a lot better for oxygenating the water. But there's so many things that we can grow in aquaculture. Now, a lot of people will either think just fish or plants, doing it through aquaponics. So in aquaponics, you're raising fish, but your main output is vegetables. Your greens, your some people do tomatoes. You can do some higher nutrient requirement plants in those, but they're just a little bit harder to do. Most people, do that. They think of just the vegetables, the greens, or the fish. There's so much more that these little systems can supply to us. One of the things that I always think of is, because I own the ducks, is how much that they can offer as far as protein to the ducks. I've got some videos y'all can check out on the channel. Just search about like water hyacinth, growing water hyacinth in these little ponds. It has a protein that is comparable to soy, and so it's a wonderful way to supplement protein for ducks. Chickens will eat it some, and rabbits will eat it some, but the ducks really take off with it. Let's see here, duckweed, man. Yes, duckweed, definitely. Says, let's see here, let me see what Mikey said here. Yeah, anything y'all got questions or comments or any talking points while we're going, y'all just throw them into the live chat. We've only got 6 people in here, so anyone's welcome to jump in at any time. We can talk about all kinds of subjects. Oh yeah, the solar fountain pumps. Yeah, those are great. In the pond that I had raised these little green sunfish in, that they bred in, it was like a close to 1,000. No, it might not have been 1,000 gallons. It was 500 to 1,000 gallon little pond line. It had a little fountain pump in it that was solar, because it was completely off grid. Those are really good. Something, if you've got a big enough pond just to keep the water moving and keep it, from going stagnant, is a great option. You can also get those solar pumps for the air pumps too. So something to think about. But growing that water hyacinth is going to be a huge food. Now, I haven't tried giving it to the pigs yet because I haven't grown any this year. But my ducks will eat it, the whole plant, including the roots. And you can set it up to dry. I've dried it out. They like it. It's just as palatable to them when it's dried out. But yeah, the aquaculture, the tadpoles is another one. Just if you set up a good pond that has no fish in it, because fish do love to eat tadpoles, you will have just bukus and bukus of those tadpoles. You can set in these little, I don't have one with me, but they're these little mesh traps. They're little fish traps. You can set them with like an algae wafer or a little bit of lettuce inside of those little traps, and the tadpoles will swim in, and you just go through and take one out every day, reset it, throw it back in there, and you can give that to your ducks. As far as giving it to other animals, I think I've given some pond critters to chickens before. They say you want to be kind of careful with like giving fish to chickens, especially if you're going to eat their eggs. Supposedly it's supposed to make the eggs taste kind of fishy. I'm not sure how true that is, but it's something, you might want to look out for. Test it. Maybe it doesn't, affect you, or maybe it's not true that it makes them taste like fish. But your plants, your little critters that you're going to be able to feed to your animals, you're going to get tons of it from doing aquaculture, not aquaponics. Not to say that those are bad. You can definitely do aquaponics and do hydroponics, which is grown without fish and just a nutrient solution. And that can be a supplement for your homestead. Moving on to land a little bit now. I wanted to touch on herbivores a little bit, and this is where I'm going to go into just a little bit about the fodder, because that's what most of my channel has been about. It's been about the fodder trees and fodder plants. Having an herbivore, I think, on your homestead is crucial. Whatever kind of herbivore you can get. Now, there's plenty to choose from. Rabbits is a super easy one. That's why I have rabbits. You can do rabbits, you can do sheep, you can do goats, you can do cattle. I mean, there's, you get into some of the exotics too. But me personally, I don't care much for most of the exotics just because they're so expensive. A lot of them are not from here and have a lot of special requirements to their diet, or to, maintaining a certain temperature. They're not real cold hardy, or they're not real hardy to heat. There's, a lot of stuff that goes in with that. But if you can get one of those herbivores onto your homestead, you are golden on being able to create protein from the land. So with my rabbits, I feed, for the most part, of course, I feed pellets. I'm not completely off the feed store. That's a goal of mine, is to be able to have it to where I don't have to buy from the feed store. But we still do buy a good bit of feed. But as far as the plants goes, the main ones that I feed the rabbits is willow and mulberry. Those two plants, I think mulberry is definitely the superior of the two as far as nutrition and the growth that you'll get out of your animals. The only thing is, it does grow a little bit slower than the hybrid willow. With the hybrid willow, I can make tons and tons of cuttings. They grow about 12 foot of height in a season on, the first year cuttings. And that growth is just going to explode if you have it vertical, or it's going to widen out if the tree reaches its max height. But all of those trees, I coppice and pollard them. So that's, just cutting them back every year, and you'll cut them throughout the summer. So those are a couple to look at. If anyone watches this, watching now live or watching in the future on this video, is interested in any willow cuttings, as far as the hybrid willow goes, I am going to be selling it. I'm not going to be advertising it because it is summer, and it's kind of rough doing cuttings this time of year. But willows are so easy. If you put them in a pot or somewhere where you're going to be able to water them every day, you can take green cuttings and put them in a pot, and keep them watered, and they'll take off. I've had some that I planted in June before that grew like 12 feet by the end of the season. Now they had a lot of irrigation, and so just to get them established, you'll want to kind of baby them. But if anybody was interested in buying some willows, I'd have to check my prices on them, but I can do 30 cuttings, or it's 30 or 25. I'd have to go and look. And I just ship them in a little box, and I'll have put some moisture, something in there to keep them, either paper towels or some kind of biochar, to make sure that they stay moist in the mail. They ship priority. And you can do that right now. It's best, if you're going to do any kind of propagation of these types of fodder trees, to do it in the winter time. So around January is when I'm going to be selling just tons of cuttings, and you can get them in the ground when they're still dormant and everything's nice and moist, and you don't have to baby them to get them started. I could, you can go on the channel and look at the ones that I've got right now. I've got about 200 in a bed that are doing great. They haven't been watered hardly at all. Like every once in a while, I'll throw some wastewater from the chicken water that just got dirty or whatever over in there. I might throw a little bit of pee in there, or I might go in there and pee. And but that's all they're getting is, just a little bit here and there, and they're doing just fine. And now they were started, though, in the early spring, late winter. So if anybody's interested in that, you can check that out. Just email me at hideawayhomestead@gmail.com. I'll try to put that in the description once we get done with the live stream. But growing your plants and having your herbivore just creates that protein, like we talked about on the pitifully drawn stuff on the the whiteboard there. That it can feed other animals on the homestead. We started out this series talking about how not every animal is as much of an omnivore or a herbivore like we think. I think what I looked up on the statistics was it was like around 60% is carnivore, and around 30% is herbivore, herbivore, and then around 3%, figuring out whatever it was, 60, 30, whatever, 3% is omnivore, like a true omnivore. So we've got to look at how we get protein on the homestead, because just trying to grow your own grains, that's the thing, is we're still in the feed store mindset when we're saying like, well, I'll grow all my chicken grains to feed my chickens. It's, you can do it, I mean, but you either need a neighbor with a combine, or you need to keep a small enough flock where you can, bust your butt growing the grains to feed to them. I also talked about grains. Grains are a good thing to be able to move animals around. They like it. It's like candy. So with my pigs, anytime I need them to come out, I let them out. I let them go down and eat the mulberries, run around, do whatever it is they need to do, go down to the pond. And then as soon as it's time to bring them back, I get that cup and got that corn in there, shake it up, they come running. So that's, something we've got to look at, is getting off of the grains and moving more towards protein, more vegetables, more fodder. And a great way to do that is to have an herbivore on your homestead. So the key so far for me, this is a whole big steaming pile of my opinion, but is to have water on the homestead, to have either pasture or fodder trees, and then to have an herbivore, because you need something to keep all that, eat down, or something to feed it to. Next comes on to the omnivores. And the thing about the omnivores is, just like with these fish here, if you look at most of your aquatic systems, it's very rare to find, I wouldn't say it's very rare, I'm not going to just make blanket statements that, I really don't have any data for, but it's hard to think of many fish that are herbivores. The only ones that ever come to my mind is tilapia and pacu, which, your pacus are a type of piranha. I'm pretty sure they're in the piranha family, and they live in the Amazon. You can buy them as aquarium fish. They eat a lot of nuts and greens and stuff that falls into the water. That's why they've got a really tough, I want to say it's like they've got a tooth plate in the top of their mouth and one in the bottom. They use to crack nuts, and they eat nuts. So our herbivores, as far as in the fish world, are very few and far between. They're almost non-existent. Like all these guys right here, they've eaten insects, they've eaten larvae, they've eaten tadpoles, they've eaten small crustaceans, and they've eaten other fish. They're all carnivore. And I think some people can't get past the whole, feeding animals to animals deal. Anytime we think about, like, if I were to offer you some lion right now, if I said, hey, you want to eat some lion, you might kind of be like, gross, I don't want to touch that, etc., etc., because there's almost like a stigma against carnivores, eating a carnivore. But we do it all the time. I mean, fish, they're carnivores. If you want to get technical with it about, like, eating something that moves around, that's got, some kind of meat to it, got eyeballs and all that stuff, chicken's a carnivore. The duck's somewhat carnivore. Pig's a carnivore. But we won't get into all the technicalities on that. That's why with the herbivore, like with our rabbits, I'm focusing on taking a lot of the front part of the rabbit, just for an example, does not have a whole lot of meat on it. Now, their front legs are really delicious. I've had them put on the fire with duck fat, and it is an absolute treat. It's like, delicious little chicken wings. You can take those off, leave like the rib cage, leave the spine that's still got some meat on it, take all those organs, and all that can be made into supplements for, like, chickens, ducks, pigs, to supplement that protein. Because a lot of times we're used to getting the feed bag, right? And on the feed bag, it gives you all the nutrients that the animal needs, the amount of protein, etc., etc. But what a lot of people, I guess people realize, that we just don't talk about it a lot, is that if you go and you eat a meal, you're not going to say, oh, well, you're not looking at how much protein's in this meal, how much carbohydrates. Some people are, because, they've made dietary choices to be healthier. But, like, as far as just eating and getting satiated and, growing as a teenager, you just eat, and then your body craves what it craves, and you grow. Animals are the same way. They have even better instincts than we do, I think. They seem to anyway. But is there gluten though? If you could specify that just a little bit more, is there gluten in? Okay, I think that's a joke. Like, is there gluten though? in the feed, a lot of the feed does. I would have to have gluten because it's got wheat. But yeah. Anyway, you're getting all of these feeds, just showing you exactly what you need. But with like animals, if they have the option to choose, a chicken, once it's had enough protein, once it's got enough protein to be able to lay that egg, it's like, you know what, I'm not hungry for bugs anymore. I think I'll eat some grass. Or vice versa. It might be eating some grass and grains and say, golly, this is just not filling me up. I need to go find me a bug, start scratching for some worms or grubs or chases grasshoppers. And as homesteaders, we just need to supply the animals with those options. So if the animals are not, I think we got a mower coming here. Yep. Close the door. We've got those options. Yeah, animals have brains too. I mean, they can have the electrical signal tell them, hey, I'm not getting the nutrients that I need. You need to go around and find me something that's got a little more fat in it, or a little more protein, a little bit more vitamins, whatever it is. If you look at the homestead like that, being able to offer the most variety and supplementing. Old timers used to do like roadkill, or they'd go and shoot a varmint. Like if your chickens were passing through the winter and they needed some protein to make it through the winter, you went and you shot a possum and you brought the possum to the chickens. I've fed chickens squirrel before. I've shot squirrels. You just cut it open and get it enough to where they can start picking around in there, and you got a large group of chickens. They'll pick that sucker clean. I mean, they'll get all the organs. They'll eat all the poo. They'll eat everything. They'll pick the bones and then clean the skin. Just like with a watermelon rind. I'm sure that anybody who's ever kept chickens has fed a watermelon to chickens before, and how that rind is just literally, it's just like a little flappy piece of skin, watermelon skin, after the chickens get done with it. So if we think about it like that more, we're going to be able to build that food web. And that's what my goal has been with doing this series and talking about this on the channel, is to get people to that point. Now, I've talked about this a lot on the channel. I don't want to make this video like, an hour long or 3 hours long. So that's pretty much the gist of it. It's just getting to the point to where we are looking at the homestead like a food web, and we're making all those connections. And I think Mikey said in the beginning, it was getting to where there's no waste. I mean, nothing's wasted. Everything is in a loop. I want to end this talking about how we need to look at buying feed from the feed store. I've talked about this on the channel, but I've never talked about it like in extreme detail. So the way that I look at buying feed from the feed store is I am buying fertilizer. So you think about it. One of the greatest things on the homestead is compost. So if you've got animals that can keep a material at the perfect temperature for 24 hours and poop it out the back end, basically you've made a type of compost. It has decomposed. Now, it may not be the same as, your really awesome aged compost that, you babied and everything, but it's pretty amazing just how much animal poop will do for a landscape. Now, let's say that you're on a property that has been treated in a way that it has really, really just devastated the microbiology. It has just devastated the nutrients. Nothing's bioavailable. The best way to get everything back on to the land and get minerals is through animals. So getting the animals on the land, getting that bio system back into play, putting the manure on the pastures, putting it around the fodder trees, putting it in the garden, getting it out of the aquatic systems, you can get it back to a place where you're not just basically giving your animals cardboard. So if you go and you buy like a good non-GMO feed like I do for my rabbits, I put the rabbit pellets around everything. And it's got all kinds of minerals added to it. That stuff is going to be bioavailable, and it's going right back into the trees, and we're getting into more of a closed loop system. So buying that feed to get the nutrients back up, to get your minerals back onto the land, or just make them bioavailable, is a great reason to buy feed. And I mean, let's be real. None of us out here are completely self-sufficient. We still want to have trades with other homesteaders. We want to collaborate. We're still probably going to have inputs. We're just wanting to look to have better inputs. And you know, it's a step-by-step process. I had much rather have to go and buy feed and still have animals than be like, well, I'm not going to have animals until I have everything perfectly closed loop, and I have all my fodder trees going exactly like I want them, and I have all my systems to where I don't have to buy anything. Like, it's better just to go and buy the feed now, build up our soils, and get to a place where we can have that closed loop system with other homesteaders. Because, I mean, I don't want to eat just pork, duck, chicken, rabbit. Like, I mean, there's a ton of other stuff that I want to eat. But something I will mention, so a guy that I really like that has done a lot of really good work on restoring landscapes all over the world is Sepp Holzer out of Austria. And one of the things that he says, and I slightly disagree with him on this, is that most of your ponds, like that raise catfish and stuff like that, in the U.S. are what are called fish negative. Now, don't disagree with that part. It would be technically fish negative, because what they do is they feed these feeds that have fish caught from the ocean in it. So basically, you're going and catching a few fish from the ocean and feeding it to fish in freshwater to have fish in freshwater, which is totally true. I mean, you know, no disagreement there. The place where I disagree with that is that it's a bad thing. So if we think about it, we're dumping just tons of fertilizer through the Mississippi River into the Gulf, creating dead zones. There's too much nutrient going into the ocean. So anything that we can bring back onto land, whether it be through fish food into these systems, or whether it be through kelp meal, or whether it be through you know, seashells, bringing the minerals and the calcium back, whatever it may be, you know, bring that stuff back to the mainland, because it's eventually going to go back into the sea anyway. So that's just my philosophy on it, of bringing that nutrients back to the homestead. So I hope that this has been more of a video that will get you thinking about what you need to do as far as closing those waste loops or waste streams, and you know, making a loop, and bringing stuff into the homestead that is going to supply food for your animals. But that's pretty much all that I had on that. I hope that it's been helpful. If we're only at 43 minutes right now. I did block out an hour for that. We've only got 2 watch right now. It's jumped from like 2 to 6 throughout the video. If anybody's got any questions, talking points, or anything that you wanted to mention, or any questions about previous projects, you can go ahead. I'll let it go for probably about, I'd say, another minute, and then we'll close out the live stream if nobody's got any questions. What I will do while we're waiting on that is I will throw a little bit of feed here to the fish, just so y'all can see how tame they've got in such a short period of time. This tank ain't but a week old. It still needs to settle some. They stirred up the sand a little bit. I do dirt bottom and sand and a little bit of gravel for that. You can tell they know I'm gonna feed them. They're getting well. They were following my fingers there. There we go. Getting those fish flakes. I guess I could bring it in just a little bit here and let y'all see the fish. And the chat looks like it is silent. So, cool. Well, guys, I appreciate y'all coming on. Had more people than I would have thought. I'd have thought I'd have just been talking and making a video, basically. So I appreciate those who came to the chat and gave us a couple of talking points here. Oh, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet and you're just discovering it, go ahead and do that. I make a lot of videos that are shorter and they're pretty informational, I think, anyway. So short informational stuff on this topic. I mean, that's pretty much, when you boil everything down on my channel to what it's about, it's pretty much about this. So if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Leave a like on the video if you liked it. If you got any questions or comments, drop those down below. And I appreciate all y'all watching. Appreciate the people who participated. And we'll see y'all in the next one. Now if I can just figure out how to stop it. There we go. There we go.